Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Euro Incision podcast. We're with you again, discussing all things that happened in Europe and of course an in-depth focus on Liverpool's back on track kind of a performance. So many positives from that one. I'm going to ignore who Rangers are and what they are. And joining me on this podcast, it is the ever charming, the ever insightful, and the lovable guy on Anfield Index. I used to call him the James Milner of Anfield Index because he could do so many jobs, but does them good. So, that is, so he really can't be James Milner, but it's Mr. Guy Drinkel. Guy, welcome back.
I was going to say that, just being mean now. But thank you. It's good to be back, and it's nice that, let's be honest, Rangers are the best team in the world and we beat them 7-1. That's how I feel today.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So you know what, let's kick this off. I mean, let's look at the team lineup. So looking at that team, I mean, what did you make of it? What did you make of the formation? How did you feel going into it? Because I felt like, if I'm being absolutely brutally honest with you, obviously after the loss against Arsenal, which is quite disappointing, and then it's kind of sandwiched between the big one against Man City. It's a strange one because to me it felt like this Rangers game was the game where Jurgen Klopp could afford to be a bit experimental because of course the two big injuries to Diaz and Trent Alexander-Arnold. He was allowed to be experimental because of the nature of the opposition. However, it was important that even if he experiments, the players have to be on fine form because of the game that's coming up ahead, and also it puts them in good stead in the group. Because again, I think we predicted Napoli would absolutely do a number on Ajax. It was a very, very strange feeling going into this game. So with all that in my head, what did you think about the lineup?
I don't think he had too many options, as you say. I think Jota for Carvalho maybe, but Jota's only just come back from injury. Obviously, when Mo doesn't play, it's always a surprise. Even, I don't know why UEFA's got us lined up in a 4-3-3 with Firmino on the right wing, but let's roll with that. But it's 2022, Nina, and I was hoping James Milner would start in a midfield too. That's sums up how our season's going so far.
Yeah. I think my options was like, is he going to play a back three? Is he going to play? Is he going to go back to his 4-3-3, be a bit, like defensive? And I think the only like in the midfield, I think we can all agree he didn't have many options at all, and not at right back as well. But in the attack, I was very, very intrigued as to who he would start and who would get a rest.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think Mo. Genuinely, I don't think Mo's ever had a rest, so it is nice to see, albeit he might have just been dropped or rotated for his own sake because he's not actually had the best season so far, but we may get into the reasons when he scores a hat-trick in about 5 seconds playing in his actual position. But we'll come on to that. But no, I like the team. A bit nervous seeing Elliott and Carvalho in the same team, but it's obviously a very different shape to what we saw against Everton.
Yes.
When they
and that
played,
was the last time they played together, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Because they played a midfield three that time, and it just didn't work whatsoever. But
I wanted, I was proven wrong.
Yeah. When we saw it the first time, I was like, "Ooh, he's got attacking! Oh my God, neither of these are midfielders." But no, this time it worked much better with them being out on the wings. Midfield 2 still has a couple issues, but we've not played it for that long, so teething issues hopefully. But I think the two young lads grew into the game, as we'll come on to. But in terms of the team itself, I thought it was mostly fine. And let's be honest, any team we put out bar the under-18 should be good enough to beat Rangers. I don't care about Ibrox. We're Liverpool. We should be used to playing in hostile stadiums. But a team that, I mean, Scott Arfield, he was a Burnley squad player like 7 years ago. He's starting for them. It shouldn't really matter what we put out, but I don't think any Liverpool fan goes into a game confident the way we're playing at the min. But yeah, it was an odd game, but we certainly grew into it, especially in the second half.
We certainly did in the second half, and I kind of want to just get your thoughts on this. You know, it's not real much fun being a Liverpool supporter this season, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, letting Rangers score a goal and break their duck in the Champions League, is that like a new low for us? Because that's what it felt. I mean, but on the plus side, it took them 16 minutes, not the first minute. So, I mean, what did you feel to that? And, you know, Liverpool's quite a cagey start, because I do think like it was a little bit everywhere to some degree.
It was just uncoordinated, wasn't it? I think that's the way we go with it. I think their goal itself, Carvalho gets caught on the ball, which I'm not going to blame a toddler for getting caught on the ball in his foot. I don't know if he's played another Champions League minute, but in one of his first Champions League appearances. Now, he's one of these players who probably hasn't experienced the atmosphere like this, because I'm guessing the Championship doesn't get too rowdy. But him getting caught on the ball, yeah, whatever. Ibu seems to be in Van Dijk's position. Van Dijk just seems to be vibing. Arfield runs off the back of Henderson. It just seems the way we tried to play out, it was like, well, we're already out. We might as well just bugger off out of position. And I think everyone was. But it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Like, we've seen this before, like the Naby Keita Atletico Madrid one last year, where he fails a press, then everything else behind him fails. We should be aware that he might get caught on possession, and then all our fail-safes are just not there. Our team is built on fail-safes, and it just really hasn't been the case this season. And I think we saw the sloppiness that has been part of our team in that moment. But
and individual errors get highlighted more, don't they?
They do.
Like,
Absolutely.
There's no like, you know, that safety in terms of like cleaning it up. And yeah, I completely get that. Yeah, I felt like that as well. It felt, you know, a little bit everywhere for me. I wasn't getting settled into the game as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, is this like a reoccurring thing? You know, obviously the Napoli game had been played before ours, so we knew what Napoli had done against Ajax. That one finished 4-2. We'll, you know, briefly talk about that one. But you know, Liverpool did pull one back, and I was like, not another. Like, I know beggars can't be choosers. I was like, can we score a goal from open play against Rangers, please? That'd be great. But you know, corner from Tsimikas and a flick of a header from Roberto Firmino. I mean, again, he gets two goals and an assist. You know, and we're going to talk about Mo Salah and his hat-trick, but you know, a key moment, because obviously the belief sort of slowly comes back, but I still think we're a little bit everywhere. But in terms of the overall vibe and the performance of Roberto Firmino, I mean, what do you make of him so far? Because I feel like such a ninny and an idiot, because I was one of those who was watching him from previous seasons and thinking he's on his way out. Like, he's like the striker that is not performing, and he hasn't been for some time. And it's quite crazy that where Liverpool are not performing the best, he's the one that's kind of stepped up the goal scoring, and he seems to be in the right place at the right time. And I feel like there's a bit more hunger and urgency about him in terms of rather than being selfless, he's taking it upon himself.
To be fair, Nina, I think you were right with your opinion of Firmino. He had dropped off. Like, even the title-winning season, he had dropped off. He wasn't on the same level as the previous seasons. And obviously, since we've bought Jota and Diaz last season, he had fallen down the pecking order, and deservedly so. But this season, he's the only striker who has kind of put it all together. I mean, maybe sometimes the linking of play isn't flowing at its best, but who the hell is he linking up with? Yes. That's probably the main issue there. But he's let's be honest, he's not near 17, 18 Bobby levels, because I don't think that player's never coming back, I don't think. But he is just seemingly, I think evolved might be too strong a word, but it may be the start of an evolution where he might just be a goal scorer. He might just sod off the linking of play and false nine stuff. He might have just went, it's time for me to be the guy. But it is nice to see, because before we used to think without his linking of play, there was no point playing him. We might as well have just got a number 9, and we did. We got Darwin Núñez. But he has had this ruthless streak. But my only concern, because everyone's debating whether now we should give him a new contract and whatnot, and we have been caught with some pricey new contracts in recent years. It's just whether this is just a purple patch, because Bobby had a purple patch last season. I think he got injured, then he kind of reverted back to not doing much. So time will tell, but it is really nice. I mean, I think Neil Jones had a couple days ago or last week that's saying it looks like he will leave on a free. But if this is his swan song at Liverpool and he's going to have one of his better seasons in a few years, it would be the perfect goodbye. But in terms of his actual performance, you are right. He's the only reliable one at the minute. I mean, Núñez has a good goal scoring record, but in terms of his all round involvement, I think Bobby's just doing a bit more. But no, it is really nice to see, because one of the most popular players is, especially in one of the most important players in the Klopp era, he almost became somewhat of an afterthought, especially with the options we had last year, because we had Minamino, Origi, etc. as well. It is just nice to see him come back to the forefront of everyone's thoughts, really, but maybe a bit too soon to say he's back and needs a new contract. But time will tell with that. But yeah, just great to see. And, well, he deservedly starts, and I think most people would have him starting against City. You're on mute, Nina, if you're talking.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, and in the past, like when he has been really, really great, and he was one of our, like, when he was on top form, he used to have really, really good games against Man City, and I think, he's certainly warranted that he does link up with players, and, but he's also scoring the goals, and he's scoring a lot of them. And of course, that assist for Núñez was just absolutely wonderful, the little flick, and then obviously Núñez's very, very clinical finish. But I agree with you. I mean, I absolutely love Roberto Firmino, and I think so many people do. And, getting him from Hoffenheim was an absolute joy and a dream for me and so many people on Anfield Index. But you're right, you can't, I don't know, like, you can't be sentimental like that. And maybe there's the whole sentimental aspect of how we just give contracts to players like that has maybe been somewhat of the downfall of what we're kind of seeing right now. Do you know what I mean? And we've kind of refreshed up the strikers anyway, and it looks like we're going through that new phase of new strikers who are a lot younger now. So work with them, and and let him go out on an absolute high, because we as Liverpool supporters absolutely do love him. Right. So there were plenty of goals: 2 for Roberto Firmino, 1 for Darwin Núñez, who I think is coming into form. And you know what? It was actually a really, really clinical finish, something that you were getting so annoyed at him. And rightly so. I think we all were. And last week, and the quickest hat-trick from Mo Salah as well, the quickest. And again, you made that shout on the Euro Incision podcast, saying, I want to see him as one more of a main striker, and I want to see what he's all about. And you got your wish, and he delivered, and he looked threatening. He looked hungry. Perfect time to get in that kind of form as well. And Elliot gets a goal as well. I mean, who else impressed you? So I've kind of spoke about the goal scorers there. Which players do you think deserve like a shout out?
Ibu Kanate. I think
yes.
their goal aside, where he was obviously overcovering for whatever reason, he made a huge block. I can't remember the Rangers player that had the shot, but everyone loves Joe Matip, and most people like Joe Gomez, but I just feel like this lad is just something different. Like, Matip's much more established, but this lad has all the attributes in the world to be the next Van Dijk, and I don't think he'll ever, maybe not surpass Van Dijk, but he has different things to offer. I know Van Dijk's rapid, but this lad, he's just really, really fast. He's terrifyingly fast for basically a giant of a human being.
Yeah.
Really good block. Really good on the ball. I think he had one dodgy pass, but everyone has a dodgy pass at Liverpool nowadays.
Yeah.
And you can see if we have Trent when he's back fit, leaving loads of space, which we do, but hopefully not against Man City because I don't want to lose 12-0. He will just add something to our defensive line. He will be able to cover all that space. Now, it shouldn't be as big as the space we've seen this season, but I think to our system working in this blaming Linda's era of Liverpool, I think key to it because he can cover that space, whereas I don't think Matip and Gomez can. So if this is the total football idea and our evolution, he will be key to that because just the physical attributes and just the quality of the player. I mean, everyone's banging on about Saliba, who has been excellent for Arsenal. This lad was our best player in the Champions League final. He pocketed Karim Benzema, if I can say his name.
Which isn't easy, people.
No, especially last season when he was just going, Champions League, I will turn into someone from the Bible with magic powers. It's just, yeah, so I think people understate how good a prospect he actually is. So I'll it's odd in a 7-1 victory, bigging up a centre-back, but it's so good having him back because I think he can take the defence up to an extra level.
Couldn't agree more. And I think, just seeing him play a little against Arsenal was pretty much for me the signal that he would be starting this game. And you're right, in the Champions League last season, he was absolutely phenomenal, and he really, really did demonstrate so much professionalism. And just like you said, he just commands. He's very, very commanding, and you can see him. And like you said, he puts himself on the line. He's big, he's commanding, he's quick. And when you're playing a team like Man City and they have a striker and the kind of striker that they do, I mean, to me, it makes sense to play him and Van Dijk as the centre back pairing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on.
I was going to say with Gomez at right back as well, you're going to need someone to help him with Foden, and Cancelo doesn't really overlap, but he may have to push up, etc. So to be able to physically deal with Haaland and Foden, may not be the quickest, but he makes clever runs. So I think someone to cover that may be better suited to like Ibu, but physically, we've seen Matip be bullied by like Ivan Toney and stuff like that, whereas I don't think I've seen Ibu bullied by anyone. So if anyone's going to stop Haaland, even better than Van Dijk, I think Ibu might be the only centre-back in the world who's physically and good enough to deal with someone like Haaland. Now, I am touching all the wood because he may score a hat-trick, but if you were building a centre-back as a blueprint, it probably would be Ibu to deal with someone like Haaland.
Yeah, his kryptonite, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Do not this podcast, is just our thoughts and not actual facts. But yeah, I absolutely love Ibrahima Konate. And you kind of touched on Gomez there, and I want to get your thoughts on Gomez because, of course, having to play right back, we didn't really see him after that disappointing game against Napoli, where I felt like he was one of the scapegoats. And to be fair, he was having a mare. And then came on against Arsenal because Trent gets injured. What did you make of him in this game? Because I felt, again, he's looking like he was growing into that game. I thought he had a very decent game. I thought he had a very solid game. And I like the fact that he also got an assist and a cross for Roberto Firmino that Trent Alexander-Arnold would be proud of.
Oh, it was a fantastic pass cross, wasn't it?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Lovely. Yeah, I think you worded it right there. Grew into the game. First half, he seemed not overly challenged with anything defensively. Maybe the odd person ran off the back of him, but it was just sloppiness. I think playing blind passes, overhit passes. He couldn't really get going forward as well, which is obviously, why the first half was a tragedy. It was awful. We just had no width. The young lads kind of stayed too wide, but they didn't get involved, so there was no width there. Gomez couldn't get forward. Tsimikas was getting roasted by the best name in football. And yeah, it just didn't really work. But Gomez, he definitely grew into it. He seemed more assured in the second half, and just got forward a bit more because he's a very good passer. Even when he was playing centre back all them years ago, that was one of his biggest attributes was passing out from the back, and obviously that leads to passes and crosses and etc. So I think he can be a very good right back. We're just obviously very used to the most unique right back in world football, so it's just a big change. But no, I think he's probably better suited there at the minute than playing centre back, because the way we play centre back, it's obviously one mistake and you're dead. And he does have the odd mistake, and whereas at right back you've got people covering you. So especially the way we've defended, it's nice having a centre back out there at times. So I'm fine with it for now, and I think he could grow into an option, but we know Trent will go back there, and deservedly so. But he's just a good option to have. It's not Milner at right back, which is very important nowadays. But no, I thought he was good, especially the second half. But first half, we saw that nervousness, rustiness, whatever the hell it is. But second half, he was really good, I thought.
Yeah. And it's nice that he's actually, like the last time we kind of saw him play pretty much, some minutes was in the Champions League, big minutes, and it was a disappointing loss for him. And I actually felt, against Arsenal, he had a few wobblers against Martinelli at the beginning, but then I felt like he started doing okay. And this was the game where, again, started off a bit and then grew into it, and it's good to see. And like you said, it's nice to have like a centre back who's actually has that defensive mindset and them capabilities, and that that kind of I guess I want to say just that assurance of having that that defending aspect of the game. He has it, and I feel like he's really improved on his crosses. And you said it was lovely, and I think that was the big debate between him and Trent Alexander-Arnold, wasn't it? Like, who would be more suited to that way? Because Klopp was experimenting with both of them once upon a time, one season. Do you remember? To see,
17, 18, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And, and obviously there was people saying, Trent is a bit more creative. And because we all know Trent can defend. It's a myth that he actually can't defend. And obviously that was something missing from Gomez's game, where he was very much more like conservative in that regard. And I feel like he's establishing himself in what he can offer in an offensive sense. So, and again, if Liverpool are a team that thrives off crosses, which they do, and it's something that our attack really kind of relies on sometimes, more power to him. I love that. I loved how he had that understanding with Roberto Firmino. Yeah. Who else impressed you? What did you make of the two youngsters, playing out wide? Carvalho and, of course, Elliott.
I think Carvalho had a tough first half. He just really couldn't get into the game. Excuse me. Elliott was a weird one, because I don't think it's just a cliche game of two halves. Minging. But
Michael Owen.
Oh God. But Elliott certainly grew into the game. I think in the first half he was trying to do something, but like the team just was not clicking. Whereas second half, he seemed to get much more involved. I think Dave made the point on Raw that the two wide lads, they kind of dovetailed a bit better coming in narrow. I think both of them seemed, well, Carvalho especially seemed more comfortable in the central areas. Obviously Carvalho was more of a 10, whereas Elliott, I think he can do both central and wide areas, so I think that worked a bit better. But I think Carvalho's the interesting one, because we kind of know what Elliott is by now. He's obviously he's been playing centre mid, and it's worked for him, but it didn't really work for the team. Whereas in the position he played yesterday, I think that's probably his best position. And especially when we brought on Mo, obviously the game was stretched by then, but we see the understanding he has with Mo. And everyone has an understanding with Thiago. Even me, you, everyone in the crowd, we could probably play 1-2s with Thiago. But no, Elliott's that. But Carvalho's an odd one, because first half I think everyone was going into half-time just going, he's not ready, he should be out on loan. Well, maybe not out on loan, but he shouldn't really be a first-team option just now. But once we got him in more natural areas, I think we saw the quality of him. But it's just the Rangers asterisk, isn't it? Because he is used to playing teams like Rangers, let's be fair.
Yes.
But at the same time, I want to see more of Carvalho. Maybe not against Man City. I think we play West Ham afterwards. If he gets a decent amount of minutes against West Ham, unless we're like getting tonked, I wouldn't be too upset. So I want to see more of him, but I don't want to depend on him, if that makes sense. But nice little signs of promise in the game, but maybe not the electric performances we kind of want. But Elliott, I think the goal was just a cherry on top of the cake for him, really, because he was one of the better players in the struggling first half, and he got more involved when Mo came on, and he had a bit more link-up play up top. So yeah, it was really nice for him to get his goal, even though, well, Steve McManaman's play-by-play on the offside was painful.
He's like, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And yeah, oh my God,
Jesus.
that has like scarred us mentally. Because when I watched that, I was like, I am traumatized, but I'm so glad you are exactly the same. Yeah, play-by-play of the offside and VAR checking it. Yeah, I think they are definitely, two players for the future. And, Elliot, like he said, I think throughout the whole season as well, like it has been a theme with him where even when we've been dreadful, he's always been kind of trying, and he was in more of a natural position today. And in the second half, he was certainly more better because he had the players that he likes to play with and comfortable with. And, and maybe it was the first half of not having Trent and not having Mo Salah on that side. And, a young player is, and again, when you actually look at Elliot with those players, he has this kind of, I don't know, like a telepathic kind of understanding with those players where to pass, he knows their movement and things. So I think, those things happened more naturally for him when Mo Salah came on. And with Carvalho, I do want to see more of him, because I think, the talk up about him and what he said about himself as well, that he wants to win the Ballon d'Or, and he seems really serious and really, really dedicated, and he does show moments of what you could potentially expect, but it's one of those where you don't want to put that much pressure on that young player, and I would like to see more of him in the Premier League. I would not like to let him go on loan, because let's be honest, we're not in a real position to do that. We don't have those luxuries where we can watch him and let him develop somewhere at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he has played for Fulham, and they were the top draw team in the Championship. So yeah, I think he'll come good, and we just got to be patient with him. And definitely grew and looked better. And I think he was very much involved in the Núñez goal, wasn't he?
Yes, I think he played the initial pass, didn't he, if I remember correctly?
Yes, he did to Roberto Firmino. So, and again, that was nice for him as well, because, he starts off with I think it was Fabinho. So I want to get your thoughts on this now. So Klopp does his iconic Champions League triple sub. Hendo, Tsimikas, Núñez off at 68 minutes. On come Thiago, Robertson and Mo Salah. And talk to me about that sub, and talk to me about what impressed you when that happened, and a certain player finding his scoring boots again.
It's a decent trio to bring on, isn't it?
It was really decent. I was thinking, not bad.
You got the best right winger in the world. You got one of the best midfielders in the world, and formerly probably the best left back in the world before Cancelo became what he is. It's good to see them getting a break, because obviously Thiago, we live and pray. Every day is an adventure, but Mo obviously needed a break, maybe taking out the limelight a smidge. But in terms of getting back to form, I've always thought it was a systemic issue with Mo.
Yes.
Just like even the Arsenal game, people saying he was getting pocketed by Tomiyasu. He skinned him like every time he touched the ball. He just never touched the ball. It's just, playing him in a central area is so much better. It is just so much better. And central area, I don't mean he just has to play as the number 9. He could play as the 10. He could revert back to his, God, this sounds FIFA-ish, right forward position. It's just so odd. Whoever's idea it was to play him as basically David Beckham, I just don't understand. It's like he's become the best player in this position doing these things. Let him do these things. Like, he's an elite creative player when he puts him in these areas, but you're taking away the magic that was him. But in this game, again, Rangers, asterisk, yada, yada, yada. We just get him in them areas, let him link up with Elliott, him and Jota seem to have a really good connection, obviously with the hat-trick of assists.
Yeah, and Jota came up for Firmino, so again that and it was nice to see Jota, and yeah, I love the fact that he was linking up so well with Jota. Jota was always finding him, and vice. Oh, yeah, 2 assists for Jota there as well.
Are you that person who has everything, the coolest merch, and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Absolutely. It's just, you mentioned it with Elliot. It's almost telekinetic. Good players connect with good players. We always say, I mean, we're all scarred by Roy Hodgson days and stuff like that, but you remember like Gerrard trying to connect with like Charlie Addo and all that jazz. Is like, oh my God, this is painful. But you see a good player instantly when they connect with other good players. And I think that's why people almost trust Darwin, because it may not look the smoothest at times, but there's clearly connections there. I think especially with Mo, what we've seen. But no, in terms of them coming up, Robbo looked back to his best, or not back, but he looked more aggressive going forward. Thiago's just Thiago. He's usually excellent, and was when he came on. But Mo, play him in them areas. He may not look the prettiest, like even some of his finishes. I think McGregor would have saved them last week because he had something going on last week. But it's just letting him get in them areas and taking them shots. Because by the third goal, it was like, that's basically classic Mo. Just coming in, far corner. Even the first goal, we've seen that goal a million times. Usually it's because he skinned about 7 people and he does that finish. But it is just play him in them areas. But if he goes back to Man City and he's playing the assistant ref position, it'll just be so disappointing. And people will be going, oh, he needs dropping again. It's like, it's not his fault. It's whoever's stupid idea it is to play him in a weird position. But it's a nice little reminder of how good Mo Salah can be.
It really is. And I think one thing that I liked about his hat-trick and like altogether, just like, first of all, I thought all 3 of the goals were like just lovely in terms of like, in terms of like, first of all, like the fact that he looked like the hungry player that he was, like to me that was like, that's cutthroat Mo Salah. That's what we were used to. And every time where where he has been a little bit off his game, and I think he's not been the best since he's come back from AFCON. And you could maybe argue he took too many touches there, or not criticizing, or he looks a bit tired and things. And to me, he looked very awake and very hungry. And I think that is probably a praise that I'll probably give all the strikers. They looked very decisive.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a word, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what was probably missing from the previous games, and maybe looking a bit blunt up top, or if the strikers were scoring, the defense looking a bit shaky, and like the strikers having to score 5 goals, and they haven't got that in them because they're just not getting the creativity and the chances to do so. But this time round, I felt like everything just looked very like purposeful, and no, I'm going to find the back of the net. And even Darwin Núñez's goal as well, like he took it so well, and you kind of want that, given the fact that I think maybe people want. I mean, like we were talking about Timo Werner, right? Are we Timo Werner worried? And we'll get to Timo Werner when we talk to you about Leipzig. But yeah, it's great to see. And for me, I love the fact that Thiago was just pinging those balls around and just finding players, and I just think he's just a classy player. What else kind of stood out for you in that game?
I'm not really sure. Maybe the concern is that the first half still looks stale, and picking out a negative out of a 7-1 victory is a bit of a knobhead move by me. But the concerns are still there because we are about to play the scariest team in Europe. But the first half was what we've been doing all season, whereas the second half was a reminder of we're a good team.
Yeah, what we can do.
Exactly. So what Liverpool are we going to get going forward? Because the first half we had nothing going forward. We looked panicky in possession. Maybe it was just Rangers trying a bit more, but we shouldn't. A team that used to be good or seemingly used to be good, should not be letting a team like Rangers dictate the game or make you panic in possession, etc. We should be just casting them aside, which we did in the second half. So that's probably the only negative takeaway, is just the first half was what we've been used to. The second half was, well, hello, this is what we should have had from the start of the bloody season. So that'd be the only negative takeaway. Well, maybe Tsimikas, because he kind of got roasted every time he had to defend. Bless him. But I think that dropped off when Rangers did, obviously. But that'd be the only concern, is just the first half sloppiness, lack of aggression, passiveness, probably the right word. But it is good to see the turnaround with maybe just a couple tactical tweaks and Rangers dropping off slightly, because we have shown this season we can. Once the attack clicks, it's probably one of the best ones in the country still, but scoring 7 against Rangers, 9 against Bournemouth, I don't think the attack's been the issue. I don't think anyone thinks that. It's just not been at its flowing best due to the rest of the team, I'd imagine. But yeah, that'd be the only slight negative takeaway was the first half.
I don't think you're nitpicking, because if you think about it, yeah, this is the Liverpool that we're used to and we're used to playing, and the first half very much felt like that. But for me, it was a little bit more concerning because they played like that against this Rangers side, probably the worst team that they've played all season. I think that's fair.
Yeah, must be. Bournemouth have shown they are capable since Scotty Two Coats, as Dave likes to call him.
Yeah.
Buggered off. Oh yeah, definitely Rangers.
Yeah, I would have to say that. And it is a bit of a concern, because if you start like that against other teams will probably punish you more as well. But luckily it was Rangers and we managed to pull it back, and hopefully the second half is a reminder of what they can do as well. Do you know what I mean? And maybe it gives you, Jurgen Klopp and the coaching staff and the team, food for thought in terms of, well, hang on a minute, if this is working and it's clicking, maybe this is something that we can build upon. And, like you said, you don't turn into a bad player overnight. I just think it's a confidence thing, and and I think it will come. Let's hope it comes really quick. Yeah, I've got nothing to say about that game. All I know is the fact that it was a must win. It was like, yes, and it was a big relief, because like we said, we were quite fortunate with where Liverpool were and their form, and we got Rangers back to back to kind of make things easy for us, for ourselves in this group, because the other game, which was played in our group, Napoli versus Ajax, was played before ours, obviously, and that one finished 4-2 to Napoli. I mean, the usual kind of suspects, bringing their A game. I mean, what do you make of Napoli? Like, do you think they might be like the people's like kind of little favourites? Do you think they're going to cause like some upsets? Because, they've got some really good players. I thought, I think everyone is absolutely in awe of Kvaratskhelia. I think Raspadori is just scoring goals for fun. I thought his goal to make it 2 was an absolute, thunderbolt, top left. That I love that kind of goal. They just show that they are absolutely clinical. And, I have to give a lot of credit to, I guess, Spalletti, because, that big change around and, bringing those kind of players in. And, I really I like watching them, and Ajax are no fun to watch. I can't lie.
And that's the thing. I think when anyone thinks of Napoli, I think they still think of what's his bloody name? What's the Lazio manager's name? The one who went to Chelsea. Sarri, that's it. I think everyone still associates Napoli with that, whereas I'm not a big watcher of Serie A. If there was another league I'd watch, it would be Serie A. But you just watch this team and you think Wow, it's almost Premier League-ish, like the exciting wingers, the direct physical nature of it, and it's just really impressive to watch because I think everyone kind of likes the romanticism of Napoli because obviously Maradona, etc. And I think they'd probably be quite a lot of people's team in Serie A, but watching them, that Georgian lad, Carabaradonna, it's like
Yeah,
a bloody name.
it works.
Um,
It works.
you've definitely been practicing that one. Um, he's a scary bloke. Him. Like he obviously only scored a penalty, but I watched the second half because I didn't realise this was on till late. But every time he picked up the ball, he's relentless. I just keep that lad out the Premier League because we obviously have Diaz in that position, so we probably won't ever buy him. But just bugger off to Bayern Munich, Barcelona, so we never have to see you because that lad's terrifying. He like what Adama Traore should be. He's just terrifying. Raspadori, obviously he scored against England the other week. That was
Yes,
a
he
really
did.
good goal. He just looks like a quality player, and they've obviously been missing a Simeon since he got injured against us as well. So
Yes.
another level of that. Maybe
And
Raspadori plays on the right or something like that. But that's a terrifying prospect to play. But they're
I've
already through, so it's good to play them then.
I've got their
So,
XG up against Ajax, and that naturally, I think we always think as well. We're kind of conditioned to believe, like this, like an Ajax team is quite attack-minded, and
mhm.
you know, and things like that. And you stereotypically think an Italian team is very, very defensive-minded. And the XG for Napoli was this is from FootMob 3.2 XG, and Ajax had 1.6.
See, you can get at Napoli. There's hope for us. No, they are terrifying. I mean, obviously Ajax. I still blame Karl Matchett for putting the fear of God in me when they're obviously not very good. I shouldn't say that before we have to play them. No, it's just Ajax. It's just odd. Playing Blind at centre back and Calvin Bassey at left back.
Oh,
Maybe
did you
that's just
see him? Did you see him
yeah.
for the fourth goal? My word.
It's just really odd. But if you have to compensate your left back and move him to centre back and move your centre back to left back, just play someone else. It's just really really odd. But even when Ajax were trying to get back into the game, and obviously there was late drama with the penalties and stuff like that, Calvin Bassey was playing right wing at a period of the game, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm.
He should be your centre back, or he should at least get in the box because he is massive. It was just really odd watching Ajax play. But Napoli, I'm so glad they will hopefully rotate when they play us, unless they're going for the perfect 6 out of 6, which they probably will be by the time they play us. But they'll be still in the Serie A hunt. I'm not sure who they'll be playing that weekend, but maybe they'll rotate against us, and it might be more winnable for us. But in terms of how far they'll go, I mean, we've seen it before. We saw Ajax in 18-19, everyone's second team. We've seen Atalanta have good runs and stuff like that. But Napoli, there seems to be something a bit more there. They seem to have rejuvenated without Koulibaly, etc., and just took it up a exciting level. So I think they will be everyone's second team this year.
Yeah, they are currently top of Serie A, 23 points. Atlanta second with 21 points. And I hate to put the fear of anything in you, Guy Drinkel, because I like you so much. But since the start of the month, from the 1st of October, let me just run through some of the scores for you. So they beat Torino at home 3-1. They beat Ajax, obviously the previous Champions League fixture, 6-1. They beat Camoranese 4-1, and then they beat Ajax 4-2. And and when you think about our defense as well, it's a bit scary, can't lie. I think they've scored about 13 goals there, if my maths is correct. Scary stuff. But yeah, they look like it. And
Let's beat Ajax, please.
yeah,
Get through. Get through.
please. Okay, so big one for Liverpool now, against Ajax. Right, Guy, let's move on. Who should we talk about next? Got all my notes here. Spurs, Frankfurt. Spurs 2, Spurs 3, Frankfurt 2. This group again is looking really like it's all topsy-turvy, and but Spurs, Kane and Son, they look like they've kind of found their chemistry again. You know, Son getting 2 goals. One of them was an absolute stunner, and Harry Kane scoring a penalty. I mean, what did you make of I have to ask, what did you make of Son's second goal? Because it was a bit of a wild moment.
It's just one of them where you just sat there watching, you don't say anything, you just make a noise, you just go, ooh.
Yeah.
It's just one of them. I love them. I love them goals. That bloke's like probably the most two-footed player in the world nowadays, and scored a goal like that on your weaker foot is just, ooh. You just, I wish it was at Liverpool.
Yeah, you know, just the way he kind of takes it at the air, you know, first time strike, like you said, on his weaker foot, and, you know, great cross by Højbjerg as well. But yeah, it was an absolutely lovely goal. Spurs and Frankfurt got 2 goals there. I mean, German teams, I mean, Bayern aside, I mean, German teams are not doing, you know, great. In my opinion, I don't think it's probably going great for them. But yeah, Spurs look like they're not being as Spursy as they used to be. Guy Drinkel, Sporting Marseille. This is why I call it a topsy-turvy. This is why I call it a topsy-turvy group, because literally Marseille were at the bottom of the group about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, should I say, and now they are second because they beat Sporting 2-0.
It did look a really clumsy game from the highlights. Although BT only put out 1 minute highlights for most of the games, which was really helpful. Sporting going down to 9 men with that. They didn't even show one of the red cards. It was just like that. It happened. Get on with it. But the first, the defending for I think it was the first goal was just awful from Sporting. And bless him, Seb Coates was playing a perfect offside line. And his other centre-back just went, nah, none of that business. But Marseille, Guendouzi with his fantastic hair, nice penalty from him. But no, this is the one we've deemed the Europa League group, and it just seems really close. I mean, Tottenham should get out of it because they have to win one more game, I presume, unless something mental happens. But everyone else is really close. It's good to see a group like that where everyone can still get out because, well, some of them are quite boring with already one team out of it. But no, that's a fun group. That's a fun group, but it's a shame they play the same day as us, so we never get to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of fun games and fun groups and things that we don't get to watch because we are cursed like that because we play on the same day, just a small affair of Barca Inter 3-3. Now for me, Guy, this is probably it seems like the most entertaining game. And obviously our game finished, and then they had this on the Goal Show and obviously on BT Sports 4 as well. And oh my gosh, I mean, what on earth was going on with some of that defending by Barcelona just in general? Of course, you know, it finished 3-3. There was a lot of drama. There was drama till the end. I mean, you know, you thought Guzans made it like killer blow on the 89 minutes. So, you know, Dembele scores first, and then Barella just creeps in behind Piqué. I don't know what Piqué is doing at this moment. He's just got his arms up in the air like he's Kate Winslet from Titanic. Has no idea what's behind him. Ball gets played past him. He has no idea what he's doing. Barella's there, makes it 1-1, and then Martinez makes it 2-1, and you think, oh my God, Barcelona are out again. And then, of course, Lewandowski, being Lewandowski, steps up for, Champions League moments, makes it 2-2, and then you think Guzans, like I said, 89th minute, makes it 3-2 to Inter. It is so much drama. And then Lewandowski on 92 minutes, in injury time. I think there's about 6 minutes of injury time. Makes it 3-0. But you know what I found staggering in all this? The defensive work of Barcelona. They looked really everywhere, and I have to put that out there. And what I found really, really staggering was the fact that after it was 3-0, I think it was Martinez as well that went on a counter, and De Jong was just watching him, and he was just kind of jogging, and I was like, you are literally out the Champions. You could be out the Champions League, like
trying to sell me to Man United, will you?
Yeah, Yeah, and then of course, Aslani, I mean, forces a worldly save from Ter Stegen.
Mm.
I'm actually shocked and baffled at this point. I was like, oh my God, he was running like they were 4-0 up.
It's just, I think that I'm pretty sure they're still top of La Liga, but it just seems like something just wrong. Obviously, maybe it's just settling in, but they're missing the first choice defence, which is the issue. But
Yeah.
Piqué seems this great of the last generation, which he obviously is by CV. Eric Garcia is a tragedy, and Jesus Christ, how will Barcelona or Man City fighting over him? I have no idea. But Piqué, your legs can go and all that jazz. How are you 5 yards behind the defensive line?
Mm.
That, I think a yard maybe, but like you literally stood there telling people to calm down whilst he's holding hands with the goalkeeper. I don't know what he's doing.
Do you think it's Xavi's loyalty to players like Busquets and Piqué because of who they are?
Well, he tried to bin Piqué, didn't he? So maybe not Piqué, but I think Busquets is probably an issue because it's hard with him because he's probably the best of. I know people put up Redondo and people and stuff like that before my time, but Busquets is probably the best defensive midfield of a generation, certainly in there for the conversation of all time. So it's hard with him because irreplaceable, all that stuff. Whereas Piqué, they obviously already tried to Kunde, Arejo, that's how you pronounce his name, and Christensen. So I think they have obviously moved on from Piqué, and they did try to move him on after the Gavi mother affair. But yeah, it's always been a problem with team. We've seen issues with Liverpool moving on from legends of the team. It's tough, but yeah, it's just sometimes loyalty is a strong word, but it's almost cancer to the team. There's a fine line, isn't there, between showing loyalty and then just ruining your future.
Yeah. I think you can't be too sentimental. Certainly not in football because players age really quick, and you need to keep it fresh and fast paced. I would agree with you. The other game in that group was Pilsen versus Bayern Munich. It finished 4-2 to Bayern Munich. All to play for, I think, is it all to play for Barcelona against Bayern Munich now?
I think they have to win both, and I think Inter have to lose both, if I remember correctly.
Oh, God. Oh, gosh.
So I think if Inter beat Pilsen, I think they're through. Yeah, because it goes head to head, doesn't it? So if Inter beat Pilsen, I'm not sure what the fixture's like, but if they beat Pilsen, they're through. So
you know what's absolutely mad? I was just saying, it's not really awfully great for the German teams, but I think two teams might look set to qualify from their groups in terms of, I'd say, Borussia Dortmund and, of course, Bayern Munich. I think the Spanish teams are doing really bad, bar obviously the ones that always end up winning it. You look at a team like Bayern Munich, look at a team like Barcelona, and what you've just shared with me there, the fact that it's not even in their own hands, really, realistically, is actually quite, oops. You would not expect that, It was something that you probably won't be accustomed to. But yeah, let's move on. It's going to be very, very interesting. I mean, what do you make of Bayern Munich just in general? Because, of course, they had the Der Klassiker of the weekend and they drew it in the final minutes. I don't think their league form is awfully great, but they look quite decent in the Champions League. And, and in all fairness to them, they have, in my opinion, had quite a test in the group. In terms of, that was the group of death, essentially. Sadio Mane got the first goal and, props to him. It's nice to see that. And, Goretzka Muller, the classic old school player that you're used to, Muller, the old veteran, getting a goal, and Goretzka getting 2 goals. And I thought some of Pilsen, both of Pilsen goals were pretty decent. Not going to lie.
Yeah, that's the thing with teams that obviously come from lower leagues and then they get put in groups of death. They're never used to defending like that, so it's obviously a big change. But when they start attacking, they're obviously very capable. So I think once you get battered in a game and the leash is off a bit, I think that's when teams like Pilsen become interesting, but it's just impossible for them to compete with a team like Bayern. But well, I suppose we could say the same about Maccabi when we talk about them in a sec. But no, it's really harsh on Pilsen, but it's good for them to get a couple goals against Bayern. But yeah, they're seemingly very sloppy this season, Bayern. I think they're like second or third in the Bundesliga. They'll obviously win the Bundesliga still. But you see it. I mean, devastating going forward at times. Maybe still lacking Lewandowski a bit in terms of the league, but conceding 2 against Pilsen's not great look for a team like Bayern.
Mm. Who do you think got more? Where do you think the thingy is and the embarrassment? Is there more shame in conceding a goal to Rangers or to Pilsen or Maccabi Haifa?
Oh, it's definitely Maccabi Haifa, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I'm not sure how they all compare together, but losing to Maccabi Haifa, and I watched most of this game. Juve got the first half, especially. Juve got outplayed. Like Rangers got one on the break. I'm sure Pilsen got one whilst they were already basically lost the game. And got 2 whilst they already lost the game. Maccabi outplayed Juventus comprehensively in the first half.
Yep.
Maybe try to survive a bit in the second half, but good lord, there's worries about us. There's worries about Atletico Madrid, etc., and other big clubs across Europe. But Juventus are dead. They are dead.
They're awful.
My God, if you're so dependent on Angel Di Maria in 2022, what the hell have you done to your team? How can your team only function with Di Maria and hoping Paul Pogba gives a damn every whenever he's back fit? Just the turnaround in that club from when Conte and Allegri were there the first time to this mess now. Jesus, it's absolutely criminal what they've done to that team. Like, Juve aren't my Serie A team by any means, but oh God, the drop off scary. That's a warning to other teams that it can all turn around with a couple bad years of transfers.
Yeah, and one really, really extravagant one that really, really screwed you over. And my notes, I mean, I can't add any more to that. I think the only 2 notes that I can add to that were that I've written down were Juve are dreadful and sack Allegri.
Yeah, and by all accounts, I don't think they can afford to sack Allegri, but I mean, they're going in the Europa League, so if you sacked Allegri, you may have got out of you may have gone through in the Champions League. So, yeah, if your manager isn't working and you're in the Champions League, just always prioritise the sacking, because albeit Benfica are doing well, Juventus not getting through ahead of Benfica, this is probably disrespectful to Benfica, to be fair, but Maccabi could beat them into the Europa League. They're on the same point as Maccabi Haifa. That's just terrifying for a team like Juventus.
Yeah, because right now 2 teams are on 3 points, and PSG and Benfica are both on 8 points. And again, that I thought that game was dead and buried. That group was like, oh, it's kind of yourself, like, oh yeah, them 2 teams are going to qualify. The other 2 are just there for the sake of being there. And of course, let's move on now to then the other game in that group. And what did you make of PSG and Benfica? That game was played right before the whole Mbappe noise. I am not going to share my thoughts on that one.
Get the hashtag up.
Yeah.
Mbappe 2023. Let's go.
Yeah, because I think everyone was kind of watching this game, weren't they? And thinking, what's he going to do? How is he going to perform? How is he going to respond? And, they get a penalty. He scores it. He also had that curling shot at the end. The end of the he had a curling.
I think it was the first half. I think that one.
Yeah,
he had the offside goal as well. I think.
That offside goal would have been like the goal for me.
Yeah, it was a fantastic strike. That one. It was just Michael Oliver decided to actually referee this time. Not sour at all. It's an interesting game. I mean, I think our first podcast we did, we discussed whether PSG are contenders, and I think we both agreed maybe a year too soon. Yeah, PSG don't do sustaining stuff, do they? There's always some sort of drama, and yeah. But it's a good result for Benfica. They seem to
Yeah.
be a lot more difficult to beat. Obviously, we had mad games with them, so maybe it's a bit more controlled under Roger Smith. But it's good to see. But it's good to see that PSG aren't just like ploughing through everything, because they usually do that and then go out in the quarterfinal. So maybe it's different this year. But Benfica look impressive, and maybe last year wasn't a fluke. Maybe they are actually a team, maybe not deep as like the semi-final, whatever, but they can be a team that constantly gets through their group and maybe go on a run. But PSG, we know the quality's there, but the infighting and stuff, it's always there in the background. But yeah, it's just an odd, very odd club. And hey, if Qatar bins them off, we can buy some of their players.
Yeah, that would be quite nice. But yeah, I'm not getting involved in the whole Mbappe thing. And yeah, and I do like the fact that, Benfica still kind of pulled them back again. You're not running away that fast. I think people thought, like you said, they're just going to run away in that group, and it still looks like, two teams are battling for it. And Benfica certainly look like a tougher, resilient team, and they'll certainly fancy themselves against, I believe the two teams that they would probably have to play would be Maccabi Haifa and, of course, Juventus, who just look absolutely shocking. Celtic versus
Leipzig.
2-0, that one finished to Leipzig. I mean, what did you make of this one? Because I felt like Celtic came all gung-ho and it came to nothing.
They just didn't have the goal, did they?
Crossbar.
Crossbar, a couple shots that should have been on target went over.
Kyogo, yep.
Yeah, it's a shame because Celtic, to be fair, I think it was Talk Sport and all that jazz who came out when they lost to Celtic. Oh, it's embarrassing, stuff like that. At least they had a go. Like, Rangers didn't have a go. I know they're in a tougher group, to be fair, Rangers, but Celtic tried. They outplayed Leipzig at periods in the game. Albeit Rangers scored first. I don't think they ever outplayed the worst performing Liverpool team in a decade. Oh, that's probably harsh, but I'm going with it. It's just unfortunate that the Scottish Premier League's dropped off that much. But Celtic look fun. We mentioned Postecoglou last week. He probably won't be at Celtic too much longer. But it's just a shame because, I mean, this may sound like a funny sentence, but the quality of people like Timo Werner shown in the second half, and Kunku, etc.
I did smile when it all happened.
Yeah.
Can't lie. Scores with a well-placed header, and I was like, you know what? Everything is going. I've got everything for Guy Drinkel here. So obviously, he scores a header. Darwin Núñez showing that he's not Timo Werner, and then the guy scores, and
he is Timo Werner.
Yeah.
So if Leipzig play before us, if Werner scores, money on Núñez scoring. That's what we figured out.
That's what we figured out, and of course, Werner gets an assist as well because Forsberg scores a lovely top corner finish.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a quality gap there. But Celtic give it a good go by the highlights. It's a shame, but what are you going to do? You're in a group with Leipzig and Real Madrid, and let's be honest, Shakhtar aren't any pushovers as well. Looking at their result.
No, they're not, and of course we'll go there. Shakhtar Madrid won also. I mean, Real Madrid always look like they're going to fall apart this season, because the groups obviously look a bit. I always find that they look a bit ropey in the group stages. I don't know if you'll agree with me on that. Like, they always look like, oh god, yeah, they've got Shakhtar Donetsk, and they'll lose to some random team like. And which was last season, and they make it all the way to the end, and that group is pretty much Real Madrid on 10 points at the moment, Leipzig on 6, Shakhtar Donetsk on 5, and Celtic on 1. I mean, Madrid, you can't rule them out, can you? I will never rule them out. I've been humbled too many times.
They've humbled us directly too many times.
Yes, they have. Oh
god. If we just avoid them, we may win the bloody thing. But if we play them, just don't watch. No, I think Real Madrid, it's just an odd one because it looked like Shakhtar just outplayed them for the most part, and the keeper made an error. for the Madrid goal and decided to try and murder Rudiger.
Yeah.
But no, that's quite a close group other than Celtic. Anyone can still go through, but Real Madrid, I think they have to pick up another draw. No, probably one more win and they're defo through. And they obviously play Celtic at the Bernabeu, if I remember correctly, so that should be a win there. But it's an interesting one because it would be nice for Shakhtar to get through with, well, the Ukraine crap.
Yes.
But Leipzig won't want that to happen, obviously. But the party poopers. But no, it'd be nice for Shakhtar to get through. But that seems like a quite a fun group as well.
It does look like a fun group. It does. Right, let's move on to the team that we will be playing over the weekend. Now, Copenhagen versus City. It finished 0-0. You know, Mahrez misses a penalty. Man City don't score a goal. They have a man sent off as well. Are the wheels falling off Man City? Because I'm just holding on to things here right now. You know, Gomez gets sent off as well. I mean, are the wheels falling off? Like, oh, disaster.
Well, 0 goals this season. Haaland's not on the pitch, so it's a good sign. We just need to injure Haaland. So yeah, anyone in the warm up, James Milner, I'm looking at you. Just go over, 2-footed. You may get suspended for life from the Premier League, but you were due retiring anyway. Just go take him out. To be fair, their goal was harshly ruled out. The Rodri worldie.
Yeah.
But again, our boy Grabara, Edward's agent.
I was watching it. How weird. I was like, that's the goalkeeper. And guess what? He was man of the match again.
He was.
Yeah.
He's a good goalkeeper. See, Edwards knew what he was doing, which is obviously making the best team in the world for a bit. It's probably a better example than signing Polish goalkeepers. City will be fine. It's just one of them. You get a red card relatively early. Mahrez isn't allowed to score at 0-0. He has to be 3-0 up for Mahrez to score a goal. He's really bad at penalties. I don't know why he takes them. Just like Rodri looks like he could be one of them Harry Maguire types who'll just top bin it every time. Just let him take it. But no, I think, albeit it was against 10 men, but Copenhagen looked a bit more competitive in this one. How is that group shaping up? Where are the... Yeah, it looks pretty much done, doesn't it? I think Sevilla season's up. It'll be a good fight for Europa League. It'd be interesting if a team like Copenhagen could get through in that. But Dortmund should get a through, and I think City are already through. So yeah, that's pretty much done. But it'll be an interesting fight for Europa League there. But City, they'll bring back the freak, and he'll score probably.
Yeah. The absolute demon. But let's move on to the other game then. Dortmund 1, Sevilla 1. I mean, if Sevilla do make Europa League, we all know what happens there. They just have a really, really nice little history with that tournament. Obviously Nianzou scoring for Sevilla. Jude Bellingham gets another goal. I believe I heard the BT stats that it was 4 goals in 4 Champions League games for him. A few more zeros added to his asking fee. I think Dortmund here it looks like they'll finish runners up. I don't think you can say any more.
Yeah, they should do. They should do. I think if they just beat Copenhagen, or I'm not sure which one they're playing at home, but just don't if they. Well, they have they give City issues in the past, haven't they? Maybe not always got the result, but it's seemingly been a tough game. But if you get 2 points or 3 points, you'll probably be fine, I imagine.
I think so. Right, I think we're going to talk about, obviously, Chelsea here. Milan-Chelsea 2-0. I think, again, Milan over the weekend beat, obviously, this really, really dreadful Juve side. But what did you make of this? And I think probably one of the most biggest talking points has to be here is the Tomori sending off. I was absolutely shocked and bemused by this. I mean, penalty and a red card. I mean, what did you make of that? Because I felt like it was really, really harsh, like beyond harsh. I'll be honest, I didn't to me, I know there was a little bit of shirt pulling, but to me, I felt like it was soft, let alone a red card.
I felt like Mike Dean was out of retirement. It was shocking. It really is. It's good to know that it's not just the Premier League that has horrendous referees, but the more concerning thing that is, I can't believe this profession is this bad at the job. So it might be more sinister than that, but it's not the podcast to make accusations of a refereeing scandal. It is just dreadful. Like, it's not a penalty and it's not a red card, but if you give the foul, I think technically it has to be a red card. But it's just not. He doesn't, like, he barely pulls the shit. He just tugs his elbow slightly to try and get past him. It's a contact sport. It's not basketball.
Yeah.
It's just daft. He ruined that game because I think most people were watching that because who the hell's watching Copenhagen against Man City?
Yeah.
I turned it off. I just, like, as soon as they went 2-0 up, I was like, what's the point? Milan had the odd good chance, but Giroud does Giroud things.
The sitter. Yeah. And of course, I think the big news from that, like you said, I think people lost interest, and I think the big news from that one was Reece James' injury, right? And another right back conundrum for Gareth Southgate, and it looks like at the moment with Walker out, Trent being injured at the moment, but I don't think he really fancies him, and we don't know how long Reece will be out. It looks like Kieran Trippier will be, the only one, but yeah, they're dropping off.
He probably was anyway.
Yeah.
He loves Kieran Trippier.
Unless he picks something up on the weekend, and that'll just be absolutely fantastic for Mr. Waistcoat Southgate.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Carl Walker-Peters, step on down.
Yeah.
But no, it's a big loss for Chelsea because, albeit I think Reece James is overhyped to hell, especially because he's a right wing back and never played right back. He's an excellent player. He brings so much to Chelsea going forward. He's fine defensively, but he has like 4 people behind him, so yeah, it's probably easier to defend that way. But he is a big loss. But it'll be a good test for Potter. We've seen people like Loftus-Cheek play right wing back and stuff like that, but don't just whack Azpilicueta out there and expect him to do the same stuff. But yeah, that's a huge loss for Chelsea, especially so soon in Graham Potter's positive start for them. But it's good for us because we obviously need Chelsea and Co to drop points now. So happy days for us.
Yeah, you got to look after number one first.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sod Potter. He sold his soul the moment he joined Chelsea. I used to like him before that. Now I have to dislike him. It's very, very strange. In the other game in their group, Dinamo Zagreb won, Salzburg won. That group looks pretty much open in my opinion from a few things. Chelsea with 7 points, Salzburg with 6, and Milan with 4, and Zagreb with 4 as well. So again, I think that's still pretty much wide open. Nobody's home and dry just yet. So yeah, let's move on to the next lot. We're going to talk about Atletico Madrid and Club Brugge. It finished 0-0. I think the man of the moment was probably Simon Mignolet again, making some big saves, great shot stopper, even took one to his face. I mean, so that was the result in that game. And Leverkusen and Porto, 3-0 to Porto, Alonso's first Champions League game in charge. What I noticed from that game was the simple fact that Leverkusen were not very good defensively. The first goal that they conceded wasn't the best, and then Leverkusen get a penalty, and they have a chance to make it, of course, 1-1 if they convert it, and that is a big if they convert it, and obviously they failed to do so. And that becomes really, really kind of costly because then they just started doing brain fart stupid things where they conceded 2 more penalties to lose 3-0.
Bundesliga tax. Teams don't defend, and it bloody shows. But it's odd. I'm not sure if he actually played, but I know Tapsoba's really highly thought of. But it's just Leverkusen have obviously had a dreadful season. That's why Xabi's been brought in. Good result of the weekend, but by all accounts, Schalke are kind of finished. I know Sepp Vandenberg's injured from us, who was playing well for them. But Porto, yeah, like Leverkusen missing that penalty, it must have just killed the game for them. But it's just odd, and giving away sloppy foul after foul as well. And then Porto just really well experienced in this competition. They're always there or thereabouts in the group stages, and it showed here. But Leverkusen, it looks like a hard season for them. But hopefully for Xabi it goes really well.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. I'd like him to do well, and things are not looking good for Leverkusen in that group at all. Currently bottom now. 1 point less than Atletico Madrid. Yeah, Club Brugge are flying there. And long may it continue, because we certainly want that. Let me think. Have we spoke about all the games and all the groups? I think we have. Yep, we've spoke about everything. So, Guy, last little bits before we close this pod off. Your goal of the round and your Albi Moreno man of the match.
The goal is Son, because your reaction is just a noise, that's the goal. So it just is. Albi Moreno man of the round. I will butcher his name, but it's Maccabi Haifa forward at Zilly, because getting a double against Juve, regardless of Juve being dreadful, it's always nice to see history-making moments. Like, I have no clue what Haifa are like at a club. We know some of the Israeli clubs are a bit dodgy, but that's just a huge result and a history-making result. So I have to go with him.
Yeah, and the crowd looked really it was bouncing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously that would mean a great deal to them, that the fact that they hosted Juve and they beat them, and that'll go, like you said, it'll go down in history. People remember that for generations, and they'll talk about it. Same complete for me. Although, you've gone a bit hipster. I was going to go for the full-on obvious and say Mo Salah, because he scored a hat-trick in 5 minutes.
Too obvious, especially on a Liverpool podcast. That's just boring.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Point taken. All right then. I'm gonna give it to Timo Werner.
Yes, Darwin 1.0.
Yes, I'm gonna give it to Timo Werner there. Stick it. Right. So, Guy, we've come to the end of the pod. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. I love talking to Guy Drinkel. Guy, before I let you go, anything you'd like to plug? Anything you'd like to share?
On Fridays, I'm on Two-Footed with Dave, usually to predict Premier League games. Rate Don't Hate, I imagine will come back. It just the games just take a toll on me, and I can't be bothered, to be honest, sometimes. So if we beat Man City or we show some sort of fight, I will return with Rate Don't Hate. But the Arsenal game, I was just not in it, so I apologise for that. But it will return once Liverpool returns. So blame them, not me.
You absolute pussy, not doing a Rate Don't Hate because you don't like what you're seeing. Some of us have to, mind you have to produce raw sometimes, but
exactly.
Yeah, some of us have to, after that, not even process what we're feeling, and we have to get on a mic. It's not great, but yeah, guys, there's going to be some great content coming your way from Anfield Index, so do check that out. There'll be an AI scouted, no doubt, about Man City, to really get you in the mood. I'm sure there'll be a rival recon as well. There's always a Molby on the spot here or thereabouts. And of course, all the post-match content as well. Guys, plenty of content coming your way because there's so much football. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Till next time, up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.